Welcome, everyone. Glad you've made it. So today we're going to be talking about the fun stuff. We're going to be talking about taxes, how you as an Uber driver can basically maximize your deductions and minimize your tax position by utilizing some of the stuff that we're going to show you today. We've already got a hand raised, as I can see. We're going to have Q&A at the end of this session, so you'll be able to ask any questions you want, right? So let's get started. So welcome, everyone, again. So first of all, I just want to start with who is TaxLeopard, right? So TaxLeopard is an all-in-one solution where you can manage your business, including things like bank integration, your invoicing, your logbook, as well as you have an accountant on the other side that can lodge all your tax stuff, right? Like your BAS returns, your income tax returns. So there's accountants that work alongside. So you've got the app that actually stores and runs your business, all your income and expenses. And then you've got accountants in the background to support you with all your lovely ATO lodgements. So, okay. So some of the stuff that we'll be covering, first of all, basically TaxLeopard does have a partnership with Uber. Currently, you'll be able to see it in the driver's app. We have some discounts, I believe, on some tax returns and stuff like that. If you head into the rewards section, you'll be able to get some of those discounts. We'll also just quickly touch upon having an ABN, whether you need to register for GST. How to report your income is a common question we get as an Uber driver, right? And we'll show you some examples as well as tax deductions for Uber drivers. Then we'll also talk about maximizing your deductions to keep more of your income as an Uber driver, as well as just understanding your tax obligations. We'll discuss that. We also have an offer. If you stick around to the end of this webinar, we'll have an offer for everyone. So, stay on and we'll discuss that. And then at the end of it, we'll just do a quick Q&A where we'll talk. You can ask any question you want. Just bear in mind, I do have quite a lot of people on this webinar. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer all questions, but I'll do my best. If not, you can always reach out, or we'll take summary after this meeting, some of the questions, and we can get back to you as well. So do I need an Australian business number for Uber? As you know, yes, you do. I'm guessing a lot of you that signed up to the Uber platform, they would have asked you for an ABN. Basically, an ABN. Now that you are you work as a contractor, you're basically a business owner. So just think of an ABN as an 11-digit number that the ATO you put on your tax return, and the ATO knows that you are a sole trader, and you report all your income and expenses for that business, right? So it's just a number that's required, and basically with we can just quickly, I'll just touch base. A lot of you will have ABNs, but TaxLeopard can assist you for applying for an ABN if you need one. I'm guessing most of you will already have one, so we won't spend too long on that. Now, do I need to register for GST, goods and services tax, right? So we've designed this lovely little table here. But basically, here's an example. So if you do food delivery only, right? So Uber Eats, and you're earning under 75K, then no GST registration is required. So if you are registered for GST, you will need to lodge a quarterly business activity statement, right? So Determining whether do I need to first of all register for GST, you need to ask yourself. And if you do, then you're required to lodge a business activity statement. It's usually every quarter, right? So if I'm doing food delivery and I'm earning under 75K, then I don't need to register for GST. If I'm doing food delivery and only that is, and I'm earning over 75K, then yes, I need to register for GST and lodge a BAS quarterly. Um, this one applies if you're doing food delivery, but the key point here is if you are a rideshare driver, right? Which I'm guessing most of the attendees for this webinar are, right? So no matter what, the rules start changing. As soon as you're a rideshare driver, you need to register your ABN for GST. Whether you're earning under 75K or over 75K, you must register for GST. You don't have a choice. And you will need to lodge a business activity statement every quarter as well. So, yeah. Okay. Now, how to report. This is one of the common questions we get. So, how do I report my income as an Uber driver, right? So, I just want to give you this example to understand that there's two options here, right? But the end result you'll see is exactly the same, right? So let's have a look at here, right? Option A, right? So you've got your gross Uber earnings, right? So let's just say this driver, we'll call him driver A, he earned $110, right? That's gross earnings, right? Then you would, that's the gross amount earned, right? So Uber then also take their commission, right? So Uber usually their commission, I believe it's about 27.5%, including GST. But if you look at this example, so gross earnings, right, 110, less Uber's commission. This is what you usually see in your bank account, right? Because Uber will deduct their fee, right, for their platform costs and running costs and all that stuff. And the net amount is what you're left with that you see in your bank account, right? It's you don't even see that; it just automatically happens, right? Option B or driver B. Let's call him driver B. He declares the net amount, right? So the amount that he's actually received in his bank account. I guess so. So you'll just see that's the net amount, and then as you can see, it's $79.75. As you can see, just from this example, whether you declare it with driver A or driver B, you will see that the net result is the same, right? So because but basically, if you have a look here, you've got both after whether I've claimed the gross amount or the net amount, it's still going to work out the same, right? Because it's $79.75 that I'm declaring to the ATO, and GST would be $7.25 payable to the ATO, right? So I guess the main point is whether you're earning gross or net, the net result, that's what I'm trying to show you here, is exactly the same, right? We do get a lot of questions about it, and there's a lot of confusion. I've just given you a quick example here as well. Uber sends you monthly tax statements. The two figures that I would pick up are, you'll see here, you've got a total income section. It's broken into transportation income. Other income is usually like your tips and stuff like that. This is the figure that you would record on your BAS, okay? So that amount, and then you'll also see this amount. Can you see how the deductions are coming out? So that's Uber service fee, plus there's some other charges. There's also some tolls and airport reimbursements and stuff like that. But that's the figure there. You'll see it's literally two figures that you need. You would claim that as an expense in your BAS and your tax return, all right? So hope that clarifies things a little bit. It can get quite confusing, but I just wanted to show you that example. So required records as an Uber driver, right? So what sort of records do I need to keep, right? So general requirements are you need either receipts or invoices, or if you don't have that, you'll have some sort of bank statements, right? So This is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? So if you're not GST not GST registered, um, the way you would record all your expenses is you would provide a receipt or an invoice or bank statement, right? Most Uber drivers will be in this category, right? So any expense over $82.50, because you are registered for GST as well, right? It requires an official tax invoice, right? So it doesn't leave you much room, right? So basically, if you're registered for GST and I'm guessing you go fill up some fuel and stuff. Most of the time it's over $82, I'm guessing. So that would actually require a tax invoice because you're going to claim GST on it, right? So that's the simple sort of explanation. If the amount is $82.50, a receipt or bank record will suffice. Obviously, the TaxLeopard app can assist you with all your tax records and stuff like that as well. Okay, so vehicle expenses. So now we're going to move on to what expenses can I claim as an Uber driver, right? So vehicle expenses are going to be your biggest tax deduction, being a rideshare driver, right? So it's your biggest asset and your biggest tax deduction, right? So what are some of the expenses that I can claim? Obviously, your fuel, vehicle registration, any servicing or repairs and maintenance, car cleaning, depreciation on the motor vehicle. There's some various methods that if you actually buy and own the vehicle, that you can claim depreciation on it. If there's a loan attached to that vehicle, we can also claim the interest repayments as well, right? So that's usually when purchasing a vehicle, most people have a loan against it. They usually don't pay for it outright, right, in cash. Some do, but if there's a loan, you can claim the interest payments. Rental or lease payments. So if you rent a car or lease, a good example is Splend. Just giving an example, so that would be an example of a rental or lease. So all those payments that you make to them would be tax deductible, and you can claim the GST. Any sort of parking fees, sometimes you may need to pay for parking, and any road tolls and stuff like that as well is also tax deductible. Then some operating expenses as well. So your mobile phone and internet that's related to your business. Like I said before, rideshare and platform fees and commissions. Any sort of water, mints, or snacks that's provided to passengers. So that's anything you provide. Can be any sort of snack that you provide. Passenger comfort items, e.g. phone chargers and stuff like that. If you provide that to your customers, that's all tax deductible. And also tools and equipment such as phone mounts, GPS devices, or any dash cams you may use as a driver. Then there's some administrative expenses, such as accounting and tax agent fees. So all your fees, your accountant fees are tax deductible. Stationery and office supplies, and any software or apps used for managing your rideshare business. I'll plug in TaxLeopard here. So we do have a subscription. You can claim all those costs as well, right? They're tax deductible. So that's exciting. Other deductions that are a little bit less common, I guess. Bank fees that are used to deposit your income. Then any training courses that you may use to improve delivery or any sort of skills related to your driving can be tax deductible. Advertising and promotion, business cards or promotional materials. A lot of people don't know about this one, but super contribution. So anything you contribute to your super fund as a sole trader is actually tax deductible, right? So that's a good little a tax deduction where you can get a pretty big tax deduction, and it's going towards your future, right? So well, when you retire anyway. So if you choose to retire. So and then just some home office costs if there's some admin work that you need to do. There's a few costs, but it's not as common, I guess, being a rideshare driver. So what expenses can't I claim, right? So as a rideshare driver or Uber driver, what can't I claim? And you know, a lot of a lot of people get confused around this one. I guess a lot of our clients as well. But any sort of personal use of your motor vehicle. So we'll explain that in a little bit more detail. But anything you use your car for private purposes, you won't be able to claim that as a tax deduction. Same with your personal phone use. And a common one as well is clothing that you wear, right? So while you're driving, that's generally not tax deductible, right? Because you're generally not required to wear a uniform. You can pretty much wear whatever you want. As a general rule of thumb, to understand that if you're forced to wear a specific uniform, and it has a logo on it, then that's tax deductible. But in most cases, I'm pretty sure as an Uber driver, well, no, I'm certain as an Uber driver, you can wear whatever you want, so it's not tax deductible, right? And last few ones, you know, a few people will be disappointed here. Unfortunately, I'm sure some of you have had some fines and penalties while on the job. Unfortunately, probably picking up, you know, a customer in the wrong spot or traffic violations. Unfortunately, they're not tax deductible, right? So, yeah, sorry to break a few hearts in this webinar. And your meals and drinks as well. So we commonly see that you're out working, you stop to get some food and stuff like that. Unfortunately, that's actually not tax deductible. The only time it's actually tax deductible if you've got to go away for like a business meeting or travel away from your usual area of work, which wouldn't apply to an Uber driver, right? So I constantly see that a lot of Uber drivers trying to claim meals and drinks. Unfortunately, it's just not tax deductible, right? Um, so then, okay, so next we're going to talk about maximizing your deductions, right? So these are some of the methods we use for our clients to get them the best result, right? This is how you're going to basically claim the most, like because look, the end result is everyone wants to pay as little GST as possible, right? And as little income tax as possible to the ATO, right? We want to do this legally, okay? So these are some of the methods that we use. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the logbook method, right? And you'll hear this talked about quite a bit in this webinar. So it's the method we recommend everyone uses, right? This is going to maximize all your vehicle expenses. So let's just go how it works, right? So basically you need to keep a logbook, right, for a period of 12 weeks, okay? So 12 weeks, I'm recording my kilometers, okay? At the end of it, I want to know how much I use my car for business purposes, okay? Why do I need to know that? Because all the stuff that I want to claim, like my fuel, registration, insurance, depreciation, loan interest, rental payments, all that stuff, and on my BAS, this percentage is going to determine it, right? So say I do a logbook, I record my kilometers for 12 weeks, okay? And then at the end of it, I know, let's just say I'm using my car 90% for business purposes. At the end of it, I can claim all my motor vehicle related expenses at 90%, right? So, and the good thing about it is, yes, it is a little bit, you know, there's a little bit of record keeping, but the good thing about it is you only need to do it for 12 weeks, right? Once you have that business use percentage, right, it's valid for 5 years, right? So you don't have to touch another logbook for another 5 years, right? So the only time you might want to change your logbook or update it is, let's say you had a business use of 70% and you're like, no, I'm using my car a lot more now. Then I would recommend do another logbook. And then, you know, you might have a business use percentage of say 90%, right? It's much higher. But if you're happy with your business use percentage, you just need one logbook valid for 5 years, right? So We always recommend everyone keeps a logbook. You're going to maximize your deductions and get the best outcome for all your motor vehicle costs. Look, the second method is the cents per kilometer method, right? So again, this I just want to explain to you the difference. We generally don't use this for most rideshare drivers. We use the logbook method. The reason being, you can only claim. It's you don't need to keep a logbook, right? The benefit of it, you just need to work out. Okay, how did I get? I can claim up to 5,000 kilometers, right? And I think for the FY24, it's 85 cents, right? So if you look at that, right, 5,000 times 85 cents, I think it works out to 4,250. I've done a lot of tax returns this year, so I know the rates. For FY25, it's 88 cents. But the downside is that's it. That's all I can claim for my motor vehicle, right? So it's not going to get you the best result, right? So for all your motor vehicle expenses, the maximum you can claim is 5,000 times 85 cents. It's about $4,250. That's not a lot when you've seen your motor vehicle costs and it's expensive to run it. So use the logbook method is what I'm saying. But I thought I'd show you the difference between the logbook method and the cents per kilometer method. Always use the logbook method. It's going to get you a much better result. And the next one I want to talk about is, I just thought I'd touch base on this, but many of you may have electric vehicles that you may use for your Uber work. So I just want to touch base. So the ATO has released so instead of effectively petrol now, you're filling up your vehicle with electricity, right? So the ATO has come up with a cents per kilometer method, which is 4.2 cents per kilometer that I've driven, right? So it's not that generous from the ATO, but I thought I'd just plug this in just to explain how it works. I'll explain on the next slide. So here's an example. I've driven 10,000 kilometers for the year. If you do a lot of driving, you know you can pretty quickly clock up 10,000 kilometers at rate of 4.2 cents. It's actually not that amazing. But I guess what I'm saying is here is the ATO just have simplified it rather than trying to sit there working out your electricity bill, which you can. I recommend you do, right? Because generally you're probably going to get a much better result than claiming that. But this just replaces, instead of your fuel, you're putting electricity into your car. And the ATO has just given a rate, it's 4.2 cents. This could get updated as well. Last time I looked at it, it was that. But this is just simplified. But I would recommend, if I was in your shoes, I'd probably get my electricity bill, try and manually work it out. Okay, this is how much it's costing me. You're going to get a much better result, I believe, in terms of claiming all your electricity costs, right? So, okay. Okay, yeah. So it's just some key points. Obviously, simplicity. I probably touched up on this as a bit too much, but yeah, you would inline. You would still need a logbook, as discussed, and you can claim all your other costs as well, right, for your electric vehicle. I won't touch too much on that. Okay. So the next one that I'm going to the next item I'm going to discuss is, I guess, key tips getting ready for tax time, right? So what can you do as a driver that's going to maximize your tax position, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to pay as little as GST as possible and minimize our tax position as well, right? So tax that you pay on your income earned, right? So you want to keep detailed records of all your income and expenses, right? Track everything is super important, right? Again, I touch up on it. Number 2, maintain a logbook, right? Keep a logbook, have it ready. It just needs to be done for a period of 12 weeks and it's good to go. Use some accounting tools to utilize software apps for tracking all your income and expenses is good, and your receipts. As you can see, it's quite important to keep all records and stuff like that in case of an ATO audit. Then understand your deductible expenses. Understand what also your what GST credits you can claim as a driver is super important. As well as, look, this is a general rule of thumb here, right? It's probably a bit too much, but we generally say, look, keep aside 25 to 30% for income tax obligations. Because you've got to remember, a lot of people, a lot of drivers get this wrong, right? So they, for example, you would have worked as an employee, right? You would see once you get paid from your employer has already taken tax out for you, right? So because you're self-employed, because you're managing your own fine, you don't get taxed on that income, right? Until it's year-end tax time, right? So it's a simple formula, right? It's literally your income minus your expenses gives you a profit or loss in some cases. Anything on the profit, you've got to pay some tax on it, right? So, and understanding, this leads me to the next point, understand your tax obligations. For example, your GST registration, and your BAS reporting as well. So that kind of all ties into it. Again, maximizing deductions like depreciation and operating costs, claim all eligible expenses. Stay informed as much as you can with the ATO as well is always good. The reason being, or ask your accountant, right? So the reason being, for example, I think this year they changed the instant asset write-off, I believe, in 2024. I believe you can only claim up to $20,000, whereas before you were able to write off your motor vehicle in 2023. So you could maximize if you had a lot of income, you could claim on the full cost of the car, you could claim the full amount of depreciation, right? So, and for some clients, it worked really, really well. But you want to know what you're getting yourself into before you purchase a car, right? Sorry, not just car, but anything you sort of get into. Car's your major purchase, but you want to keep up to date with the changes, right? You need to understand what can I claim GST on the car. How much can I claim? How am I going to claim it? How am I going to depreciate it? Have a basic understanding. Otherwise, speak to your accountant as well, right? They should be able to, before you make any major decisions, you should always speak to your accountant. So, which leads me to the other point, consult a tax professional like us. I'll plug ourselves here as well. We can always assist you. We help our clients with all their, tax-related questions and stuff like that. So, just some key dates for tax lodgement. Generally, if you're lodging your tax return yourself, I would recommend not to, but you can if you want to. If you want to give it a crack, due on the 31st of October. If you lodge it through a tax agent, registered tax agent like us, you generally get an extension to the 31st of March or the 15th of May. So that's automatically granted to all tax agents, right? So just be aware of those dates, I guess. Then some more common tax mistakes that we see for a lot of drivers, right, is definitely not keeping accurate records, right? So understanding, not understanding, keeping all track of all their expenses. It's usually the expense side that they lack. So, keep records. You're a business owner. You're not an employee. You're running a business. You need to declare everything to the ATO. And I know that the ATO now is cracking down. They're working together with Uber. And Uber is giving to the ATO, okay, give us a list of all the ABNs, and how much have they earned, and they will data match to your tax return, right? So that's coming into effect as we speak. So it's going to be very hard not to be able to get away if you're not keeping accurate records. The ATO is cracking down on that because they're seeing the rise of the gig economy, right? Another one is mixing personal and business expenses. Now, I always recommend keep one bank account for all your transactions, right? So it just makes it easier. It's just a recommendation. It's up to you what you want to do at the end of the day. But if you can keep everything in the same bank account for the year, It's just much easier. It doesn't have to be a business bank account, just an account that you've got all your income, all your expenses. We get a lot of drivers, I paid this on my credit card, I paid this on another account, and it just becomes an absolute nightmare. Tax time, thankfully also the TaxLeopard app can assist you with all those records. And then obviously maximizing deductions. Again, I've touched up on this, but incorrectly calculating vehicle expenses. Like I said, you want to maximize that. Logbook method is what we always recommend. Always going to get you the best results in 9.5 times out of 10. And then forgetting to include all incomes from all rideshare platforms. This is a common one I thought I'd share, but we get a lot of drivers that try to take it alone, right? So they try to lodge their GST and their tax, right? And it's okay. You can do that, right? But I've seen it time and time again that they end up always paying way too much GST and way too much income tax because they don't know what they're doing, right? So, and it's okay. You might save on an accountant fee, and that's great. But in the end, it kind of, if you're paying an extra few thousand in tax or a few thousand in GST, then what have you really saved? So you got to ask yourself the question, do I know what I'm doing? Consult it to a professional. They'll get you a much better result, right? You'll end up paying a lot less GST, I hope, and a lot less tax. It's usually the case, right? Missing deadlines as well. Keeping to if you're late on your BAS and tax lodgements, the ATO is getting much stricter. I'm seeing a lot more penalties now come through the ATO. They're at a stage where they were giving a lot of grace when it was lockdowns. Now I'm seeing a lot more that they're much. They're giving out a lot more fines and penalties. They're not giving. They're nowhere near as lenient as they were even 12 months ago. So just something to be aware of. Last of all, I just want to talk about. I'll just touch base on this. This can be quite a complex area of law, but just if you are a foreign or temporary resident in Australia, you generally need to lodge a tax return, right? So if you've earned any income, so if you've earned like a salary or a wage here, you've had tax paid or pay-as-you-go withheld, you will need to lodge a tax return, right? So all income from Australia generally needs to be reported. And you need to lodge a tax return. If you've got any questions, just reach out. We can assist you there as well. But I just wanted to quickly touch base on that. I won't spend too much time on that. So last of all is, now that it's tax season, it's super important that you understand, you've understood some of your obligations. This is where TaxLeopard can assist you as well. We look after all the above. So whether you have employee income, we can look after all your deductions against your employee income. If you have any investment, obviously self-employed, sole trader is your rideshare, food delivery, and all that stuff. If you have any rental properties, capital gains, pretty much anything that's in your tax return, we can look after it. We generally, but all that income, I know that we've had in the past, this is an interesting one, but a lot of drivers will think, okay, they might have an employee job, they work as an employee, and then they end up lodging their tax return, and then they think their self-employed sole trader income like Uber is separate. It's all included in the one tax return. So just be aware of that as well. It's not a separate tax return. All this income, any income you've got here that I've shown you, is all reported in the one single tax return. So we constantly get that. I've seen that. We've had to do amendments and then include it. It's not the end of the world, but just be aware. I just want people to be aware of the mistakes that I see a lot of drivers make, I guess. Okay, and basically just I want to end it on this. This is our process in terms of lodging a tax return with TaxLeopard. You can sign up. You access the tax section. We have like an online form. You submit your information. We then receive it. Our accountants will draft a return, right? And then after we've drafted it, if we find this method works best, we'll reach out and contact you via email, right? Because there's sometimes a lot of something missing, something that we feel that you've missed that you can claim. There's usually a lot better positions and stuff like that. So that's always, yeah, just want to understand that's our process. So if you've got any questions, again, just reach out. We'll be happy to assist. And the one exciting, so everyone, just everyone that is registered on this webinar today, will, once they've signed up to the TaxLeopard app, you just need to sign up. We'll give you $100 gift in your account. We'll manually credit it. Just make sure, if you can, sign up with the same email so that we can match it to the one on this webinar. But we'll give you $100 to use towards your BAS lodgements. So I think we charge $49 per quarter. Yep, the last time I checked. So it's two BAS lodgements. You can try us out. We want you to get you. We want to give you a gift, so you can try out our services, and yeah, we can hopefully save you some GST yeah, just sign up today. You'll automatically get that. We'll go through it over the next 24 to 48 hours, and you'll automatically get that in your account just for signing up. So that's exciting. So, okay. So now Q&A, I have had a lot of questions. So I don't know if I'm going to be able. I've already had 48 questions, which is interesting. So I'll start going. So there's a little Q&A box. Just to answer them in there. I know that there's a lot even in the chat as well. What we can also do after this, I'm not going to be able to answer everything. There's obviously a lot of questions. So at the moment, 50-something questions. So I'll just go with what I can answer. So there's a little Q&A box, and then I will. So someone said, "How about Uber Eats drivers?" Yes. This is also tailored for Uber. The same rules apply for Uber Eats. Sorry, I'll just put answer. The same rules apply for Uber Eats as what's shown in this webinar. Obviously, I've just touched a little bit more on rideshare, but the tax rules apply. The only difference may be that you don't need to register for GST and lodge a BAS every quarter, but similar sort of tax rules apply to Uber Eats. So, okay. Do you have a summary for... Okay, so next one. Do you have a summary for all? I'm guessing yes. We will send everyone a summary of this webinar alongside the questions as well. So any questions that we don't miss, we will answer it later. Another one here. I have to leave the webinar early. Yes, we will send you a recording to everyone after this as well. And even if people didn't rock up, we'll still send a copy of the webinar. So here, I've registered for GST, but my earnings are below 75K. Do I need to cancel my GST? The question you need to ask yourself, are you a rideshare driver, or do you just do food delivery as well, right? So, because that will determine. So the quick answer to that is, if you are a rideshare driver, you've got no choice. You must lodge a BAS statement. If you're a food delivery driver and you're earning under 75K, then yes, you don't need a GST registration. That's the... okay. Can I claim garage space bank interest payments against tax deduction? Look, I've a small percentage is... I don't want to give the wrong tax advice here, but look, we have had this question. If, say, you had quite a few cars that you use for rideshare. I could see possible. I remember one client I had wanted to he was basically like redoing his whole construction for his garage. I said, no, it's not tax deductible. Um, Look, it's maybe a small percentage. Like you wouldn't be able to claim it all. But look, reach out to us. It's Vivek. We can discuss that further. It can get a little bit tricky as well, but I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying there's some rules around it as well. So, um, you said okay. What's the next one? You said mobile use for Uber. Will my mobile data cost tax deductible and SIM card subscription? So, yes. The short answer is yes. The way you would work it out, it can get a little bit tricky, but you just sort of you can make a reasonable estimate. You can get like 1 month's bill and say, okay, I'll use 80% of the time I'm using my phone for work. There's just as long as you can sort of justify it. If you've got the invoice, is always good. But just you only need to record it, I think, for 4 weeks or something, like a little diary or something, is usually fine. Um, so if I earn less than 18,200 on my Uber Eats account, do I still need to lodge? Yes, you do, unfortunately. So it doesn't matter on the amount. So the only difference there is that you'll be under the tax-free threshold, which means the first 18,200, you don't need to pay tax. So, but yes, you will just, it would just mean you've got a nil tax return, which means you don't have to pay any tax, but you're not getting a refund. But yes, the short answer is yes, you do need to lodge a tax return. So yeah, so can you explain deductions according to sorry, I should put answer. Can you explain deduction according to sample earning statements from Uber? I won't go into much detail, but the way Uber's monthly tax summary have sort of done it is they've got two components. You've got your total income, right, which is usually broken into your either delivery or rideshare income, right? And then you've got any sort of tips and stuff like that that you may get while you've got passengers on board. That's usually that's what usually you declare on your sales for your BAS and your tax return, right? And then the second part of it is the deductions, which is your Uber commission, and there's some other charges as well. That's what you would claim in your BAS under commission and expenses usually. So yeah, it's a little bit hard for me to sit here and explain the whole statement, but if you want to reach out, I think it's Sufyan. We're more than happy to discuss that with you. So this one's an issue. So can you explain what rental charge is claimable? So basically, any sort of payment you make to your rental company, if you're renting a motor vehicle, is tax deductible. You can claim the GST on that. The only thing, Rakesh, that you need to do is just do a logbook just to make sure that, okay, because you'll have to offset the business use percentage. So, for example, in your logbook, you had 90%, you'd be able to claim 90% of all your rental costs. So, hope that makes sense. So I'll just turn this way because I've got the, okay. Yes. Yes, coffee unfortunately is not tax deductible. I'd love to say that it is, but the ATO have made it very clear. Because otherwise that would apply to anyone, right? It doesn't mean just because you're an Uber driver. If I was an employee and I was working, then I'd be able to claim all my meals, right, including my lunches, right? So it's the same sort of rules. It's just not tax deductible. It's only if you're sort of going away on a business trip or something, and you've got to stay away. So there's ones that are doubling up. Hi, do you have a summary of all? Yes, we will send it after this. I'll skip the ones that are doubling up if I can remember as well. So yes, your answer to that. Yes, we will have a live recording. Okay. Okay, I feel like I'm getting some of the same questions here. That's okay. I do job as sorry, it's I do job as officer, also drive Uber. Please explain expenses from my other job as well. Yeah, great question, Tambia. So it's obviously separate. If you're a security officer, there's other deductions that you can claim against your employee income. What we do when you fill out complete your the tax form, it asks you a whole range of questions. You need to just fill that out. We'll look at it. Common sort of, it can depend on the profession. If you work in security, obviously there could be some motor vehicle costs, some other uniform costs and stuff like that. Phone is usually a common one, all that stuff. So anything that sort of relates to you as an employee, you'll be able to claim that. But this is the purpose of us. Our accountants work in the background and try and get you, depending on your profession, because every profession is different as well. This is separate to your rideshare business. So, okay, sorry, this one's a bit of a long question. So, the kilometers Uber tracks to yes. So for business to personal use won't be the same as my logbook if I switch app off. Okay, so it's a bit of a long question, but I'm guessing your question is what Uber records on their platform is usually the kilometers you've driven when picking up your customers or your delivery driving. They won't. There's also the kilometers that you drive while you don't have a customer in the car. So that can also be used towards your logbook. So if I'll keep it at that, but yeah, so that's the short of it. I think I've understood that right. Um, do I declare? Okay. That's yeah. Do I declare? Hang on. So sorry, there's a lot of questions coming through. So I've got over 200 questions, so I'm definitely not going to be able to answer them all. Okay, so I think this one, yeah. So you can claim the short of it is if there's any bank charges, you can claim that as a tax deduction. We'll leave it at that. Um, I haven't started a logbook yet. I've driven for 3 months. So anonymous, start a logbook is what I recommend. Just get one started. You will need it. It's going to maximize your deductions going forward. So just get one started. You can do that in the TaxLeopard app as well. My car is not used anywhere else. Okay, I think what you mean is you're using your car 100% for business purposes, I'm guessing. So yes, but you still need to keep a logbook to determine that. It's more just that's the way the ATO want you to do it. So if the ATO, like not only do you have to have invoices for your car, they'll also ask you, okay, do you have a valid logbook? How did you claim all this, right? How did you come to that? You can't just say I use my car 100%. The way that you would answer that, I've got a logbook, here it is here. I've tracked my kilometers for 3 months, and that's it. I use my car for this amount of business purposes. So, and it may just be 100% that you use your car. So yes, does Uber Eats drivers need to maintain? So yes, the short of it is yes. Um, the same thing can apply for Uber Eats drivers, depending also on what you're driving. There are a few rules around from that. So if you are driving a car, the same sort of rules apply. So apply EV car for 88 cents. So I think what you're saying there, Peter, is you're using this cents per kilometer method. So you can only claim 5,000 kilometers. So that's the method that I'm telling you not to sort of, it's not going to get you the best result. So I'm not saying you can't do it, but if you want to maximize your deductions, you want to use the logbook method, right? So, Santosh, yes, you will get a recording of the video. How do I keep a logbook? I think that's a separate question we'll answer. There's some instructions as well. You can sign up to TaxLeopard. We have a logbook. It's got step-by-step instructions on how to keep a logbook. It's a little bit probably too long to answer because there's a few steps. But effectively, you're just recording your kilometers for a period of 12 weeks, and we're trying to work out. So let's just say I did 10,000 kilometers in 12 weeks, 8,000 of those are for business, but while my logbook's 80%. That's the simple explanation, okay? But yeah, if you want to reach out, we can answer that in more detail. So another one, I don't have a logbook, but have fuel and car maintenance receipts. Will that work for deductions? Yeah, so depending on, again, I would recommend no. So the short of it is, Jim, that you won't be able to claim that. You would have to claim the cents per kilometer if you don't have a logbook. So to claim that, please keep a logbook. That's the easiest answer. Do I need to register? So it looks like we're getting a few sort of food delivery questions. Do I need to register for it? I bike. I don't quite understand that one. I ride a bike. I make 1,300. Do I need to register? Register for GST is what I'm guessing. So I'm guessing it's that. I didn't quite understand that question. So the short of it is, if you are just, it sounds like you're just doing delivery. No, you don't need to register for GST. What if my business percentage decreases significantly due to an increase in personal driving? Look, that's a good question. So the short answer is no, because that logbook is valid for 5 years, you could still justify it. I mean, what usually happens is, as you use it less, your usually income falls as well. Do you know what I mean? So it sounds like you're doing more personal driving and probably, I'm guessing, making less. So it's kind of relative because you're making less, so you're not claiming as much. But the short answer is no. If you have a logbook that's valid for 5 years, even if it's decreased, you can still claim that same amount. There's no, I haven't seen any ATO laws around that. Like I said before, if your business percentage is low and you think you're driving a lot more, you would do another logbook, right? So that's if that makes sense. Um, so I rent a car from Uber Car Share and use that car for Uber food delivery. And can I get car rental feedback as tax return, as in your tax return? So yes, the short of it is you can claim that rental fee in your tax return as a tax deduction. And uh, I'm guessing you're not registered for GST because you're food delivery, but you would be able to claim, if you're registered for GST, you would be able to claim the GST as well. Um, can we claim donations? Yes, absolutely. Donations are tax deductible to an Australian charity, not a problem. I think it's anything over $2 and above, I believe. Um, if I'm an Uber Eats driver without GST, can I claim expenses? Yes, you can. The only difference is that you wouldn't be able to claim that on your BAS. You would be claiming it just in your income tax return, right? So yes, so you can't claim it in your BAS. You can claim it in your tax return. So it's a separate item. Paul, yeah, does TaxLeopard import the weekly statements of expenses such? So what we've got a banking integration, Paul. So what our app does, I believe now you can go back to 365 days from memory in our app. It'll just be when Uber pays you, we'll pick up the amounts in your bank accounts. That as you saw in that example, the net amount that's deposited by Uber, we'll pick that up, right? So, and in that amount is usually your tolls paid as well. Sometimes, Paul, you can have tolls outside. For example, when you're in a passenger, when you pick up a passenger and you go through a toll, you'll get reimbursed by Uber, and so you'll get that. But there's sometimes where you may drive into an area, you haven't got a passenger, and you've paid for tolls. Those are separate. You can claim that as a tax deduction. Um, Okay. When you say 90% of vehicle is used for Uber, does it mean that we make a certain amount on Uber? Like I make it that I have two cars on Uber and other personal, I have full-time job. So what you're saying, 90%. So what I'm saying there, is you've got two cars, you would need to keep two logbooks, separate logbooks to each car, and work out how much you actually use your business use percentage, right? And it's separate to your full-time job. So if you're, I'm guessing, yeah, I'm not sure if you rent them, but I'm guessing you've either got two cars that you use for Uber. Um, in terms of tax deduction, what's the difference between Uber driver and Uber Eats driver? So look, the Uber driver generally can claim a lot more on their motor vehicle, I guess. There's a lot more expenses associated with it. But look, effectively, the deductions are kind of similar and the tax rules around it. The only thing, if you're doing food delivery, you might have some protective clothing that you have, delivery bags and stuff like that that you may need to purchase. And you might ride it depends if you ride a bike as well. So there's it's a little bit hard to mention everything, but there are some distinct uh differentiations. But you can always reach out if you've got any um uh claiming claiming car rents. Yes, you can claim car rents. Don't quite understand that one. Please go through expenses for petrol. If over 10 kilometers, I don't quite understand that question. But again, go back to a logbook. You can claim that. Um, I'm an Uber Eats delivery person, not Uber driver. So in my case, GST registration would be required if I cross 75K. Yes, that is correct. If you're doing Uber Eats only and your income is over 75K gross income, then yes, you need to register for GST. Um, I'm trying to go through the ones that I haven't answered. So Uh, so yeah, that's separate. Paninda, I think it is. So yeah, that's separate. It's got nothing to do with the kilometers traveled. It's trying to. This is the way the ATO do it. A lot of drivers have a little bit distinct. Oh, I traveled 10,000, and they think they can claim the cents per kilometer method. No, that's not how they do it. It's just again, it's just keeping. That's just the laws of the ATO. So do you know what I mean? So it's got nothing to do with your kilometers that you traveled for Uber. You need to keep a logbook. That's it. So there's no, I don't make the laws, but it's got nothing to do with just your Uber kilometers traveled. Um, so yes, you can get a recording of the webinar. Uh, Uh, Dal, yes, of course you can. You can do quarterly GST by yourself. How? Well, that's the question. This is what we constantly we've had clients in the past that lodge with us, and then after that they go do it themselves, and they usually come back because they've ended up just paying way too much GST. So the short answer is yes, you can do it yourself if you know what you're doing. Go ahead with it. But I would stick to doing what you know best, which is driving, and making money that way for a small fee. I wouldn't waste my time, but that's everyone's got their own personal choice as well. Um, so this one, can I claim both my rent and petrol expenses? No. So the 5,000 cents per kilometer method covers all that. So basically it covers all your rent. It's just a simple 5,000 kilometers times 85 cents. That's it. And that covers all your expenses for your motor vehicle expenses. Um, Shari, yes, we'll send out to Shari. We'll send out the recording. Um, okay. So, Mohan, I need to help with tax paying everything. reach out to us, sign up, my hand. We've got a in customer support as well. Just reach out if you've got any questions or you're not sure about something. Sign up to TaxLeopard. I'll share the details of that. I'm just being aware of time. I'm gonna just answer maybe a few more. So is Uber delivery considered PSI? Meng, no, it's not. It is, if you have an ABN, it needs to be declared in the business schedule. It's not personal services income. That's a separate type of income. So it is business income. It's not personal PSI. Can I get a so Mohit, can I get a referral code? You can, if you're in the Uber driver app, TaxLeopard is listed in there as a partner. We have some discounts on tax returns at the moment. For attending this webinar, sign up to the TaxLeopard app. We'll credit your account with $100 that you can use towards your BAS lodgements if you have any. I've kind of answered that. All right, just a couple more. So Ranjana, so if you started working July this year, the short answer is I'm guessing you're doing Uber. Not sure if you're a driver or Uber Eats delivery, but the short answer is yes. You do need to do a tax return, but the good news is you don't need to do a tax return till after the 30th of June 2025. So for your Uber income, you still will need to lodge a tax return for the previous year, but you don't need to include your Uber stuff because you started July this year. So it's not reported to the next financial year, which is 30th of June. Yes, I read something that can also claim sunglasses, non-prescription, and sunscreen. Short answer is yes. You can if you're doing like it can be sort of if you're driving, you can sort of claim that and sunscreen. If I'm guessing if you're delivering or something, you're generally not going to be wearing sunscreen as an Uber driver. You're in a car. But yes, there is some rules around that you can claim it. Just a few more, guys, because I'm just we're just there's too many questions. So what I'm actually thinking is there's something like over 300 questions. What we're going to do at the end of this, so don't stress if I haven't, because we're obviously short for time. What we're going to do is after this webinar, we're going to list all the questions as well. We're going to send you a recording as well. So anyone that's had a question here, their question will be answered. We'll send out an email of the recording and a summary of all the questions, right? So anything that's sort of doubled up, we're just not going to have the time. So I am going to wrap it up because there's just way too many questions. But don't stress, we will do a summary. If not, you're more than welcome to jump on the TaxLeopard platform. We have a help function. Any questions that you have, just reach out. We've got, once you sign up, we've got a ticketing system as well where you can ask all your questions. Our accountants will get back to you. So I think there's that option, but we'll also send a copy of this recording out to everyone. There's just way too many questions and we've gone over time. And so last of all, I'll just end it on this is thanks everyone for joining us. We invite you to sign up with TaxLeopard. That's the website. We're also on the Google Play and Apple Store as well. If you want to sign up there, just search for TaxLeopard. You'll find us. Again, once you're in the app, you can send us an email at support@TaxLeopard. But once you get in the app, even on the website, we have a little help section. You can ask your questions there from this webinar. But I do have to just cut it short. Otherwise, we'll probably be here till 10 o'clock at night if I was answering all these questions. But we will get back to you. Don't stress. We'll send a copy of this recording of this webinar. We'll summarize all these questions. in everything that we send as well. And if you need to reach out, just reach us on the website. So thanks, guys, for joining us. I am going to end it here. Appreciate everyone that attended, and we'll like I said, reach out if you do have any more questions. Thanks, guys.